So this is Vam Electric Ghost, and we haven't had an episode about our music for a little bit. We've been heavily getting into the teenage engineering OPZ and creating drum loops and clips on the actual OPZ, and then we've been taking that and then sampling it into our Eurorack Make Noise morphogene, and we're getting better at figuring out how to use the morphogene in terms of its ability to clip um, samples and to put them into slices and genes and then have other things modify it. We've been actually using the mass utility module to adjust through controlled voltage the sample and add LFO elements to change the structure of the sample. We've also been using our Mother 32 to create bass lines through the use of the LFO and the sequencer and the ladder filter. So one of the songs that we did this on was Digital Controlled Soul, which is a kind of heavy diss track over an individual that Josephine knew that was kind of like we're a DAW-less producer and this person's like into the DAW, and Josie's kind of arguing that her production is kind of stale and it doesn't have the kind of life that an organic composition would have. And Josie does whatever she wants, and she is rather aggressive in her approach. But what was interesting about that song is it is a sample that we've been using, and you can hear this sample on a bunch of songs that we have in this collection. This original drum beat was used on the track Super Constricted Fix, and then it's been adapted to change in structure. In some cases, when we've used it, it's been kind of loose because we have it morphing, and so the speed of the sample is not stable, and so it doesn't stay. Like if you just took a Moog DFAM and you ran the beat, it's gonna stay stable unless you introduce some randomness into it, which we do sometimes with the mass module. And then in addition, what we've been doing is clipping it down to a very stable structure, and you get an example of a clip, the same clip used in Digital Controlled Soul. The same clip is used in Super Constrictive Fantastic Love and Super Constrictive Love. And it's pretty loose on the initial version of Super Constricted Fix. It's got some randomness in it. And then what we tightened it up and sped it up for the song East Coast Beat, West Coast Sun. And so there, it's sped up to a very, to almost a max speed that we could run it with it being musical. And then it changed the nature of it. It brought the cymbals out, with a really metallic sound on the cymbals. And then we brought in the Mother 32 bass line. And then we ran a Moog grandmother into it as well. And then Josephine did this whole kind of strange song where she's talking about the Juno, she's talking about Buchla, she's talking about Moog and how she wants to make love to her Moog, and she gets pretty into it. And interesting with Super Constrictive Love, Fantastic, Super Constrictive Fantastic Love, we actually took the song and we created a video, and when we did the video editing, we ran like a backwards video loop that created a strange modulation sound of like a string sound or a horn sound. It's kind of very interesting. So we actually took that as the variation, is we ran the video track and then remastered it. And sometimes we find that when we play with our video production, because we make these Instagram and YouTube videos, that sometimes we take the result of playing with these clips and changing the order. Because what you can do is you can splice the clips up when you're doing a video, and then you can change the order of those clips when you create the music video, and then that actually changes the structure of the song. And it's a visual way of taking the video aspect of the song and then rearranging it and running things backwards and doing interesting things with that. So we've done that, and that's different, a little different than a DAW. We kind of like cutting up the tape. We're kind of a producer in the idea that one time we were watching a documentary on Peter Gabriel So, and for a drum line, they actually, for a drum track, they took the tape and they spliced it like 100 times and they rearranged it from what it was originally played. And sometimes we take that kind of technique of splicing, but taking our video version of our song and then splicing the video, and then using that, and then re-recording the video, changing it from an MP4 back to WAV file, and then remastering it after we split it up is a technique we like to run. And so we'll be actually doing an interview today for Jazz Sirius. We're gonna be talking to her today, and we're gonna do this at like 1 p.m. and yeah, probably like a little bit ahead of one, like 5 minutes before. Yeah, and yeah, we love to. If you ever listen to us, we do interviews with indie artists, and that's part of the show. And then we have Josephine doing a separate show where she gets into more risque type of material. One thing we also do is we talk about the latest gear. So the latest gear that's been released in the last couple of weeks has been the Make Noise Strega, which we're very interested in. We always wanted to get into Make Noise. We chose their Eurorack products rather than their standalone. As I said, we have a mass module, which we use to do a lot of CV modification to the signals. You can do exponential and logarithmic modification of like LFO, low frequency oscillator modulation of VCA signals all over your rack, and it's very powerful. You can like slow things down to like very slow LFO rates to very quick rates. You can make a lot of interesting noise, which we're into. We kind of like the Alexander Cortini style at Nine Inch Nails noise revolution. And a Strega is an interesting little box in that it's a desktop synth in the form of a zero control or a zero coast, and its primary function seems to be like atmospheric noise manipulation with the delays. So you got this complex oscillator that's able to do wave folding, and then it's got this kind of like unknown mystery X component where all these different things can happen. And it's got this touch interface. It's kind of like the Renee, and you have inputs and outputs that you can do with your fingers or with organic material, like a pepper. It was actually shown taking a pepper and laying a pepper between the input and the output on the manual input pressure points, and then using that to make a connection. And so it's very experimental, and there's a lot of interesting things you can do. It's got this karaoke analog delay. It is rather noisy, and people who like very clean recordings are not going to be into it. It's more experimental. IDM, progressive electronic folks are going to probably take advantage of the noise that it can create and the discordance it can do. So if that's not your thing, it's probably not your machine. The other thing we were looking at is interesting is kind of like the more simplified workflow of the Roland VersaLab, which is primarily for like hip hop producers and maybe EDM producers that want to be able to go and bring their vocal in and be able to do a vocal track with the ability to take all these kind of the Zencore sounds and the drum machines within Roland and not have a complicated workflow. Like if you look at it, you say, well, it doesn't have everything that an MC707 has, but it's a lot more simplified, and it can actually produce the master right in the machine, which is kind of interesting. That's the kind of core of it. That it's a mobile, easily constructed DAW, but when you have things like the Kai Force and even the MC707, you say, well, why do you want that? Because you could just take an MC07 and bring your mic in. And for us, the MC707 is probably a better choice, or even like in the Kai Force, because we're looking at the actual pad control is The force is very useful, and the ability to connect the force to CV. We probably bring in all of our analog gear and probably bring in our Zencore sounds rather than using a lot of sounds in there. Our supernatural sounds that we have already from Roland is what we probably would use rather than the Kai sounds. But I think what's interesting today with all the synths out there, uh, again, the Phantom was updated to be able to bring in actual plug outs similar to the System 8. Now you can actually bring a Jupiter 8 and a Juno and a Polyphonic SH101. So that is something that I have been probing Roland for the last 2 years, is how come a Jupiter X can do that and then a Phantom can't? And they couldn't really explain it because the Zen core pretty much is the same on both. And now it can do it. So I'm glad I waited to get a Phantom. And the Phantom is, for us from a music production standpoint, is the next choice and machine that we want. And we got all these people with, they don't like Roland, and there's a lot of hate on Roland. But if you look at the Phantom, I mean, the Phantom is probably the premier workstation out there. It's I/O is like second to none. You can do like any kind of I/O you want, from XLR to quarter inch to USB, multiple USBs, tons of CV. It's like a dream in terms of the control surfaces. You can get to a lot of the controls on this machine without jumping in, and then the touch control is very powerful. The touch screen and the emulation. I mean, the fact it has an RD piano, or like it has the virtual piano engine in it. So you've got, being a composer, having a great piano is a core thing. And I've looked at the sequential circuits, Prophet X, but then if you look at the Zen cores, it's like this has a lot more going on. And the fact that now you can make a Jupiter 8 and a Juno 106, and you can take a Juno and layer it on a Jupiter and then bring in the RD virtual piano. That as a composer, I'd be hard pressed to say that that's not something that a lot of people, if they had the money, they'd want to use it. So that's just a fact. And then the other thing about analog, a lot of people are always talking about, Roland doesn't have analog. But go back and look at JDXA. I mean, I have a JDXI. I mean, come on, that's a great machine. I have a System 1M, which is an awesome virtual analog machine that can do a lot. And then if you really want analog, Roland did not give up. If you get the System 500, that's an amazing machine. I mean, it's a lot of money, but it's a Eurorack machine that's like, it's right there. You would want it. And we've been looking at it for years, but $2,000 to get all the modules is kind of out of our range in terms of what we want to do. And then from Moog, the big Moog purchase, not the big Moog, the next kind of mother-oriented machine we've wanted forever is this Subharmonicon. And what we're thinking is getting a Doffer solution, which is, if you ever seen a Doffer, Doffer brand of Eurorack cases, they have a 3-tiered rack that's set up as a road case with a power supply. So we were thinking, we could get that, and you could have the Mother 32, the DFAM, and the Subharmonicon, plus a bunch of make noise modules, and then have it ready to go. And you can bring it on the plane with you, and then bring like a Phantom, and then you pretty much got everything you need to do a show. So that is something we've been highly interested in from the beginning. We have road cases, and we lug our whole rig around when we do shows, or when we did shows, when we could do shows. We still love our grandmother. We probably, in this, from the truth state, we spend more time on our Moog grandmother and DFAM putting together things than anything else. And then lately, the OPZ has been our primary go-to drum machine. And I would just tell people, like, the OPZ is one of the greatest little drum machines you could ever use. It's very powerful. It has a lot of capability in terms of, just the ability to mute and unmute tracks. In real time, we like to use that to actually build a drum beat in real time. So if you take an OPZ and we actually record it into our Zoom R24 DAWless recorder, by muting and unmuting tracks and playing with the sampler, which has an interesting sampling system on it, we've been able to put together most of the songs you hear on here are created from doing a record, taking an OPZ, running it through the eighth inch jack into an MX1 performance mixer, and then recording it live into a Zoom R24. So that is how we've been doing our drums a lot of cases. And then, what we do also is we prior to the R24, in some cases, we bring it into the Morphogene, and then later we clip it out and turn it into splices and genes and things like that, and change the speed of the sample, the original sample, or the original recording. So again, thank you for supporting the Ghost. Please hit the PayPal Me link to do a one-time donation or become a supporter of the podcast at 99 cents a month. That'd be appreciated. We thank you all for listening to us. Also, check out our sponsors through our telephones. We've got a bunch of companies that we work with that you might want to check out, and we'll talk to you folks later.
Digital control, the girl's got no soul. Digital control, two Jesus into her home. Get the fuck down if you didn't know. That girl got digital control over her home. Yeah, we gotta play August snow. That where all the money goes. She will, then she won't do it until she don't. August snow is all going up her nose. Yeah. Digital control, the girl's got no soul. Digital control, two fingers into her hole. Two fingers into her hole. If you didn't know, the girl's got girl can't say no. August play for snow up the nose. Do it till you don't. Do it till you won't. Will you do it all alone? Do it to the bone. Digital control is just so digital control. It glitched out, it fucked out in the cold. Glitched out, fucked up the nose. Digital control, the girl's got no soul. Digital control, that's where all the money goes. Straight up the nose, the girl's got no soul. Two digit control, two digits in her. Two digit control, two digits in her. Digital control, the girl's got no soul. Digital control, the fools go. Two digits into her hole. All that August snow straight up the nose. Fuck to the bone, you glitched out on your own. Fuck to the bone, you glitched out on your own. All that cocaine straight up her nose. Digital control, girl's got no soul. Digital control, two digits into her hole. The girls out in our snow. All that cocaine filling that hole. As if you didn't know, girls got no soul. Fill their hole. I'm just a mother, I'm just a mother, just like you. Whatever you want to, we can surely get into. I'm a mother, on just for you. We can surely get into. I'm a mother, on just for you. We can surely do that too. We can surely do that too. Just me and you. I'm a mother, undressed for you. We can surely see me into that dude. We can surely see me into that tune. So we can open the mouth. And I'm a mother, undressed for you. Oh, we can surely both do that dude. Until we get in and out of tune. Until we get to the 5th of June. It's whatever you don't want to do. It's whatever you want to consume. It's more than enough headroom. But do that you know inside of you. Do that you know inside of you. No, you wanna hit that raw. No, you wanna hit that wrong. No, you wanna hit that wrong. No, you wanna get it down. No, you wanna get that wrong. It's sound. Everything is going wrong. No booker, it's sound. Everything get undone. You know this mothers get done wrong. And that's the point of the song. That the booker is son. You know we're all gonna get done. Done wrong. My mother's undressed by the end of the song. Get it down. Come on. Mother, undone. Know you're gonna have some fun. Open on some. It's what it is one. Ladder coming down like a ton. Ladder coming down one. I know that you don't wanna have fun. I know that you just wanna come. I know that you don't wanna have fun. You just want me down until you come. Mother, undone. It's the weight of the gun. You point at your one. And now we're all gonna get some. This mother's undone. It's the weight of the Gatling gun. This mother's undone. And now you can feel me even if you don't come. Even if you don't come, son. You know this mother gets undone. Even if you're in and out, son. Over the other one. And there's a booker in the sun. And when the sun will get it done. And look oscillator, yeah, make you feel undone. The oscillator make you really, really wanna and then you come undone. Cause the oscillator, son, don't you know oscillators make me come.
Yeah.
here.
Love faker, a pill taker. You don't ever wear a glove. Love taker, pill faker. You can't even wear a glove. And therefore you can get it up. With all the pills in the top. There's no pills in your tub. And you're a fiend of fake love. Love faker, real taker. That's like a keep in touch. Love faker, a pill taker. Didn't know you'll fuck it up. It's the hand without a thumb. Until that time ain't love. And we will you fuck it up. And you'll still get no love. Love faker, a blue pill taker. But you still can't get it